I'm pretty sure I'm an only child. I'm fairly certain I remember that. Yet somehow there's a girl in my home that my parents are saying is my sister. They don't even tell me her name, just call her my sister. And I don't remember her. Somehow she's younger than me, maybe around 10, 9 years old. And there's pictures of her around the house, and no pictures of me. We even look different from one another. She has dark hair and dark skin, just like mom and dad, and I have olive skin with auburn hair. Her eyes are brown like mine, but she keeps glancing at me all the time, like she's going to fight me. I have brought it up with mom and dad a few times, but they keep telling me not to worry about it. That it's completely normal for siblings to fight each other. The thing is, I don't even think we're siblings. That Monday morning, Dad had made pancakes stacked high on a center plate on the table. There were chocolate chip pancakes that were fluffy, and the syrup was heated up in a little ceramic pitcher. There was butter that was still warm, and knives to help spread it all. I reached across and grabbed some of the pancakes with the available tongs. After I grabbed 5 pancakes for myself, I began to stand pancakes on Sister's plate. She kept staring at me as I stacked the pancakes on her plate. When she had 3, she raised her hand to indicate it had been enough. Next, I pointed at the butter and syrup, and she just shook her head and began to eat her pancakes dry, staring at me the whole time. I shrugged and began to eat my pancakes as Mom and Dad looked at us eating. For some reason, they didn't start eating until both Sister and I had finished. For a long time, they would also get upset that Sister started eating before I did, until I started putting her food on her plate for her. Parents could be so weird sometimes. When I finished my plate, I took it over to the sink and offered to grab Sister's plate, but she almost stabs me with her fork, just missing my fingers by a few inches. My hand jerks back, and Mom and Dad began to berate her for almost hurting me. There's no reason to try and stab your big brother. He was just trying to be nice and take your plate to the sink. If you didn't want him to take it, you should have just said you were still eating, my dad said to Sister, as she continued to stare through him, and her eyes were on me. I cleaned off my dishes and set them on the dish strainer. When done, my parents finally finished berating my sister. They also ate the chocolate chip pancakes. Still, Sister is smiling now that I'm away from the table, and it makes me a bit uneasy. Why is she so much happier without me there? Is she trying to replace me? It doesn't feel right. What kind of person tries to replace another as a parent's child? Even with my breakfast eaten, I still had chores to do. Laundry for the house. Collecting laundry from my room, then my parents' room, was easy. Both of our rooms were on the ground floor. Sister's room, however, was up above ours, in the attic. Holding the basket to my hip, I went up the attic steps. The attic was dusty, despite being somewhere where my sister was supposed to be living. Going up into the attic, I find tons of boxes, cobwebs, and even dust. At first, none of my sister's items were around. Still, brushing past some boxes, I do find my sister's corner. Lit by a small oil lantern, there was a pile of clothes. Dirty, clean, didn't matter to her, all went in the pile. She just stacked them all together. No toys, just the sleeping bag, her pile of clothes, and the lantern. Shoving my sister's clothes into the basket, I felt something hard underneath her sleeping bag. Curious, I moved the bag over and found a book under it. Faye and You, an abridged guide written by Manic Dreams, the cover read. Thinking it was a bit strange, but curious, I put it into the basket and took it downstairs to where the laundry room was. Shoveling all of the clothes together into the washer, I opened the book and found a piece of paper being used as a bookmark. It was a chapter on changelings. This was where things got strange. According to the book, changelings were a type of fairy that replaced a child in the family, oftentimes cursing the parents so they would prioritize the health of the changeling over the health of their children. Occasionally, though, they wouldn't replace the child at all, but simply be placed into a family that already had a child, similar to a brood parasite like some birds. And then the changeling would be taken care of by the parents without replacing any children. These types of situations would gradually push the human child further and further to the edge of the family, erasing their identity, their memory from the family, until eventually the child is forced to leave, or they are killed by the parents and then fed to the changeling. Gagging a bit at that line, I notice a footnote on the bottom. Signs that a changeling may be infesting your home. Memories you can't explain. People vanishing from photos. Missing memories. Parents refusing to feed themselves until after the children are fed. And milk expiring quickly. Turning the page, I see a torn out page. The only thing left was a line. How to fight a changeling. What are you reading? I hear my sister ask me. I close the book quickly and try to hug it close to my chest. The cover facing me and the back of the book covered in my arms. Oh, just a textbook for school, I tell her, my voice almost squeaking out of nervousness. My sister just stares at me. Her haggard look and hungry eyes stare at me, almost like she was sizing me up for a fight. But instead of her doing anything, she just walked away slowly. I sigh and open up the book again, trying to see what else I could see about changelings. Not much else could be found. The other pages about changelings were either scribbled out or completely torn out. Unable to read more, I shut the book and tuck it away behind the washer. Still, though, a piece of my mind was working on what was read. Why would my sister be reading something like this? I mean, a little girl reading about fairy isn't unheard of, but it only looked like she was focusing on the changeling and not on anything else. But then again, with everything that was going on, we had to replace the milk in the fridge nearly every day. In fact, I cannot recall any early memories of sister, and the fact she was in every photo but I wasn't in any. And of course, she was sleeping in the attic, because we never had a room for her. The only rooms for sleeping were my room and my parents' room. She must have been the changeling in our house. A parasite. With this knowledge in mind, I began to make a plan for her while the laundry was being cleaned. Later that night, I decided to make dinner for everyone. I managed to dig through my dad's old books on magical creatures. There was an outdated dictionary about mythological figures. The section on changelings was about a paragraph long, but it did mention if you served a changeling's dinner in an eggshell, they would say something that would cause them to disappear. It wasn't much to go on, but it was something I could use. Now, finishing up the soup, I carefully doled out a small portion out into an eggshell, which I admit was pretty difficult, but after admiring my handiwork, I say to myself, I have seen an acorn turn into an oak tree, but I have never seen this before. Impressed by my hard work, I put bowls in front of my parents and set mine down, and gave the egg to my sister. She stared at the egg in her hand, and then at my bowl with bread, soup, and shrimp, while what she had could fit in her hand. Is this all I'm getting? She asked me incredulously. Before I had a chance to speak, my dad interrupted my sister. Your brother worked hard to make you dinner. You should be thankful he made you something instead of ignoring an ungrateful sister like yourself. But Dad, this isn't enough food. I haven't eaten since breakfast because you said... No buts, young lady. Go up to your room this instant, he said. My mom just stared at me, and I was in a bit of shock. I had never seen my dad angry like this before, but I guess it was the first time for everything. My sister angrily crossed her arms and left her egg on the table while she went up to her attic room. A bit rude, I say to myself, while I greedily ate my dinner, while my parents stared at me until I was done, and then they ate. A few hours later, I take a bowl of reheated soup up to the attic. I figured I would apologize to her. Clearly, I was wrong, and there was no magic here. Our parents were probably just bad people, and that's why they insisted I ate first. Still, with them asleep, I felt comfortable coming up to the attic. Making it to my sister's corner, I noticed that she was in her sleeping bag and facing away from me. So I sat down where her feet should be and I start talking to her. Look, sister, I'm sorry about earlier. I wasn't doing homework. I was reading the book you had on Fae. Somehow I got it into my mind that you were a changeling. Something about how I didn't have memories of you before a few days ago, and the fact you were in every photo and I wasn't, it just felt so wrong. I sighed and squeezed at her feet, which felt extremely squishy. I don't want there to be any hard feelings between us. That stunt earlier with dinner, that was stupid. I'm sorry. I didn't know that Dad was keeping you from eating until you said something. Our parents, well, they can be a lot. But I want you to know that I'll help take care of you with them, and I'm so sorry about everything. I patted her feet again and laid the soup in front of her sleeping bag. For you, sister. Tomorrow, let's talk to Mom and Dad together. Let's see if we can share a room or something. At least for a little bit. I say before standing up. As I turned away from my sister's sleeping bag and start facing the stairs, I saw her standing right in front of me, holding a large shovel. Apology not accepted, she said just before swinging the shovel, and everything went black. When I came to, I felt like there was an impossible weight on my chest. Something heavier than an elephant keeping me down. I couldn't even lift my head. What my sister did to my head with the shovel, I think it was gonna hurt for a long time. What? Why? Where am I? I asked only to see my sister's face appear in the dim light of her lantern. Her face was far from peaceful. It looked like every bit of anger was amplified many times over. You really are a changeling. You really are trying to get rid of me. But before I could continue, she covered my mouth with her hand. I'm not the changeling here. You are, she told me. But before she could explain any further, I licked her hand and she pulled it back. Okay, ew, 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 so gross, she said, wiping her hand on my shirt before continuing. Just a week ago, I was an only child. Then, the next thing I knew, you just show up at my house, saying you were done with school for the day and my parents were treating you like you always lived here. They moved me out of my room, saying that it was your room. They moved me to the attic by myself, didn't even give me anything but my clothes. Hell, if I didn't find that box of camping supplies, I would be sleeping on the floor. No, that can't be true. I would have remembered just walking up to the house. I remember having the family. I don't remember you. You were the one who just appeared out of nowhere. Well, tell me then, brother. Where do you go to school? I opened my mouth to respond, but I cannot. I cannot remember what school I go to. I remember going to school, but not the name of it nor anything specific. Can you tell me the name of any of your friends? Again, I cannot answer. Do you know my name? Do you know the name of your own parents? I think hard. I think really hard. But the only thing that was there was a hole. I knew Mom and Dad were just Mom and Dad, but I couldn't remember what their names were. What's your name? She asked me. This one I did know. Talwith Teg, I say with confidence. My own name came to me easily. What's the family's name? Again, I think hard, but I remember looking out to the mailbox. The family name was Pierce. Pierce, I respond to her. But this time she took out a pair of iron scissors. The ends looked sharp as a steak knife, and the scissors were a lot bigger than her hand. So, if your last name is Teg, and the family's name is Pierce, how does that work? She asked me. I opened my mouth, but I am unable to answer. She's right, there's a disconnect there, but I only got a headache when I think about the disconnect. Does the black moon howl? She asked me cryptically. Only when she's castrating, I responded. Not sure why I responded the way I did. Do you remember how much you would eat? Remember how if you didn't serve me, that I wouldn't get to eat? If this continued, our entire family was going to starve. so I called my Nama for help. She told me the best way to get rid of a changeling was with iron scissors. She snapped the scissors shut at these words, and I felt myself gulp. I'm sorry, brother, but you're not my brother. I'm an only child, and if my family is going to survive, you will need to die. She pressed the iron scissors against where my heart was pounding. This time I managed to lift up my head and see what was holding me down. A rusty horseshoe laying on my chest. I really was the changeling. No, sister, no, you cannot kill me, please. I'll tell Mom and Dad everything. They're enchanted. They'll do anything as long as it benefits you. I'll live here forever. You'll never see me again. Just please don't kill me. As you leave, they'll follow you. They'll follow you to Pandemonium or LCL or wherever else you go. If that's what it takes to take care of you. Trust me, brother. I wish there was another way, but this is the only way. My sister's eyes are brimming with tears, her hands shaking. I can tell she didn't want to do this to me. Please, just give me a chance. We'll find a way. I didn't know I was a changeling. There's bound to be a way to break the curse. Please look at me. There's a way, and we will find it. Together. There has to be a way for us to live together. I begged my sister. I see her tear-filled eyes face me again. She lifted the iron scissors away from my chest for a moment. She seemed to be considering her actions, even if just for a moment. I wish you were right, brother, she said, bringing down the scissors to my chest with full force. The last thing I thought before fading into the darkness forever was I didn't expect the heartbreak to hurt more than my heart breaking. Dad? Mom, please. I thought the curse was going to be broken. I didn't expect it to get worse. Please listen to me. That's not your son. Oh my God, you're cleaning a corpse. I yell at my parents while they're in the bathroom washing off the dead body of the changeling. They rinse dried blood and viscera down the tub and scrub at his skin, usually scrubbing away some of his skin. I don't know at what point they decided it was just easier to start stripping away this flesh, but they did. And when they cleared away his bloated flesh, leaving it in large trash bags, they left his bones to soak in the tub while running the hot water down his ribs. I could see slight differences between his bones and human bones. There was a slight shine to them, and also the fact the bones stayed together despite there being no ligaments. As for my parents, after Tilwith died, they went from treating me like a problem child to completely ignoring my presence altogether. They'd walk around me and make sure not to have anything hit me, but I'm pretty sure I was just an inanimate object to them. I tried going down to the kitchen to get something to eat, and my dad didn't even care that I was eating right in front of him. Which was a small blessing, but still. Even with the changeling dead, they still treated him like he was their son. They still treated him like he was alive, clearing off his bones and trying to offer food to him in the tub. Naturally, his bones didn't move and he didn't eat. But my parents still sat transfixed and mesmerized, like he was the most fascinating thing in the world. I call out to my parents one last time out of desperation. Mom, Dad, it's your daughter, Marceline Pierce. You both would call me Mark? Please remember your daughter. I'm right here. I reach out to both her hands and try to grab at them. They don't react at all. They don't close, they don't flinch, they don't hold my hand back. Their hands were dead to me. I would have preferred if they tried to push my hand away, because at least they meant they were aware that it was there. But there was nothing there. Crying as I left the bathroom, I go to the common room. There, I picked up the phone and called Nama. Nama, I did what you asked, I say, crying into the receiver. I can hear her smile in her voice. Excellent work. So the changeling is dead? Yeah, he's dead, but Mom and Dad don't recognize me. They're still obsessing over Tylewith. Oh, that was its name? Well, good thing it's dead. But nah, Ma. Mom and Dad don't recognize me. You said the curse would be lifted if I killed him with iron scissors. I followed your directions exactly. Oh, that. Well, that's to be expected when a changeling is killed by iron. The obsession and the glamour stay. If it stays, why did you tell me to use it? Was there anything to have broken the curse so they could have remembered me? I asked her. Well, of course. The simplest would have just been having the changeling tell the parents it was a changeling. He offered to tell them. Why didn't you tell me there was another way? Don't you take that tone with me, young lady. Adults have very good reasons for saying what they say. And if I say use iron scissors, then you use iron scissors. Do you understand? But nah, Ma, no buts, young lady. Now, your parents are officially cursed by the changeling, but I can pick you up in an hour and you can live with me now. But, now darling, listen, you have two options. Live with a cursed family that will let you starve because they're too busy taking care of the bones of a dead fae, or you can live with your Nama and learn real magic. What is your choice? I think for a moment in complete silence. I legitimately consider living with my parents, even if they are cursed. I've seen Nama be so mean so many times. She was my dad's mom, but I don't know how such a kind man was raised by such a cruel woman. But there wasn't any choice. I didn't want to see my parents like this, and I didn't want to die by starvation. Is there not any way to help Mom and Dad? I asked Nama, desperate for a yes. That isn't a choice I'm giving you. So, live with me or die with it, Nama responded. Even at my young age, I noticed she didn't say yes and she didn't say no. Maybe there was hope, but if there was, it was with Nama and it was with her magic. Okay, Nama, I'll live with you, I tell her. When she picked me up an hour later, I turned to the house, and I could swear I could see Tilwith Teg's skeleton looking at me through the living room window. I guess my parents moved him somewhere with more sun, so that he could stare out the window, so he could see outside. Still, though, I wave at him. And I cannot know for sure, but it almost looked like he was waving back at me. Oh, don't worry about killing it. It was best for everyone, Nama said, driving away from my house with me in the back seat, looking back at my home with my heart sinking further and further as we drive further away. Thank you for listening to this Red Prince legend and this story. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Good night.